well done. Acompanha Berpakovski, entra. And Riga lead.
Welcome back to Latvian Football Podcast, and where today we will discuss the latest two rounds of Latvian Virsliga, namely rounds 21 and 22. Yeah, just talk about Virsliga, also update you on the table, discuss our thoughts on it. Of course, I will award also the goal of the round. So, any thoughts on the latest two rounds, the results, the table?
Yeah, so as usual, 10 games have been played. In round 21, we had Daugavpils hosting Supernova, Riga hosting Liepaja, RFS hosting Jelgava. I went to that game. Auda hosting Valmiera and Tukums hosting Metta. Any surprises for you in this one?
I can't say so. Maybe RFS and Jelgava game was a bit of a surprise, even though the winner wasn't surprising. I was surprised at how, I wouldn't say bad, but not confident RFS looked at the beginning.
It was bad. It was very bad.
And maybe another surprise is how boring was Auda and Valmiera game. Definitely expected more from that one. Other than that, I think the results are fair and as to be expected.
So the round kicked off with Tukums hosting Metta, a game that ended in a 1-1 draw. Generally a fairly even game, I think. Metta maybe looked a little bit better, although Tukums are sympathetic as always. In terms of possession, Metta held slightly more ball than Tukums. Tukums had more shots and more shots on target, but there is not a significant difference. 21 versus 15 and 7 versus 4. Overall, interesting game. I enjoyed watching it. Metta opening the score and then Tukums hitting back in the second half. And then it just ended like that.
Yeah, Tukums, also a couple of new players in their squad. It was an interesting game, quite an even one. I think there's more to be disappointed for Metta. I think they should have done better. A bit poor in front of the goal, but fair play to Tukums for their ability to bring in players who usually been on the bench, like Rogovs, for example, Galais, and playing them and they're doing quite all right. Managed to score. Kransman seems to be scoring a lot lately. So that's definitely exciting. But yeah, other than that, it's just a fairly even game between also, I think they're two table neighbors, direct competitors. And yeah, it's just a solid draw, I would say. Also, Vapne scoring. He seems to be really one of the main motors of Metta squad, especially during the absence of So and Korea. Well, the main foreign players they have in the squad. So interesting to see where Metta will finish, but I guess you could say it's a bit disappointing the considering the start that they had to the season.
Yeah, Metta up to that point, this was a game that interrupted their losing streak. So they had a series of losses, and then this draw was something that put an end to that, but still not particularly good result. As you said, they started the season so well and sort of were knocking on the door of the top 3 or 4, and now they're kind of where we're more used to seeing them.
I don't know if there's anything really else to say about the game, so I guess we can move on to the next one, which was also a goalless draw between Auda and Valmiera in Skonto Stadium. It was just a surprisingly boring game. You probably have the stats up, so how many shots on target did both teams achieve?
I mean, you looking at the stats, you genuinely can't even tell which team is which. It's so identical. I mean, so Auda managed 12 shots overall versus 11 for Valmiera, 3 shots on target for each team, and 56 versus 44% possession in favor of Auda, which is also no surprise to anyone given their style of play this year. But no, I absolutely agree. The game was really it was borderline tedious. There's just nothing going on. And then in 92nd minute, Reginaldo, the Auda player, got himself sent off on top of everything. But that was pretty much the most exciting event of the entire game.
Yeah. Also, quick substitution in the 35th minute. by Valmiera at the end coming off. Wasn't really in the game as your discounts, Valmiera's coach said. But yeah, it's just a bit weird to see such a game from two teams that would have started to attack and score more. Valmiera should be doing that. But again, it's just two direct competitors for the third place. In that sense, a draw is well, it makes sense. But it's just a weird manner of how it happened. It's goalless, a bit of an unnecessary red card.
It's just not good form for Valmiera. The game before that, they drew with Liepaja, coming back into a 1-1 draw, and then the game before that, they lost to RFS 3-0. Just not convincing.
Although, I guess they are starting to play better, I think. There's more of a team that we're seeing as opposed to start of the season, which was very disappointing.
I mean, one would expect. It's been 21 games already. One would hope they would start playing more as a team. And but I think we all know that the key to this improvement has been one person in particular. And you could really see Valmiera before Camilo Mena was recalled, and after it's a leap in quality. So that doesn't say many good things about the remainder of the team.
Although he particularly isn't playing actually that well, he's trying. It's very visible that he's trying hard, but not really getting anything. Missed 2 penalties already. Well, that will be mentioned in the next round that we're discussing, but also barely any noteworthy moments. It's just more quality. That's true.
But he's creating danger.
That is true, and
he's creating danger. All the dribbling, he's so fast. I can't believe it.
Yeah, true.
And he's just really threatening the goal.
Yeah, well, that is a good point, and we'll definitely talk more about him discussing the next round and moving forward as well. But as for this game, don't know what else to say. It's a 0-0, a boring 0-0. Just a couple of shots on target even. I don't really recall if there was even a very dangerous moment. I wonder what the XG for this game was. Probably like 0.2 against same.
Yeah, nothing unusual, nothing breathtaking, just a goalless draw if there ever was one. But next game is a bit of a surprise. Next, RFS hosted Jelgava, which by all accounts should have been an easy game. And just to remind that this was the next game after the big Riga derby, 4 days later, in fact. Yeah, so the big Riga derby was on 30th of June. This game was played on 4th of July. And I was there, and I almost wish that I wasn't. It was hard to watch. I mean, Jelgava were doing really well, especially in the first half, especially first 20 minutes. They were dominant, or if not dominant, then near that. They hit the bar, they forced a clearance off the line. I think both times from set pieces. I was a little bit late to the start of the game, but when I was walking to the stands, it was just basically balls bouncing off of RFS goal, and by all accounts, RFS should have been behind by the time I took my seat, and they were lucky not to be. The game was just ludicrous. At one point, Vitalis Yogodinskis, the RFS center back, knocked out his right back, Robert Savalnieks, who had to be subbed off. He was clearing the ball and cleared it right into the head of Roberts. And it was just farce of a game if we're judging by RFS standards, and especially how well they played in the Riga derby, even though the result didn't go in their favor. This game just felt like it was permeating hangover, emotional hangover. They were just depleted. Passing didn't work. They couldn't create danger. Morris had to sub in a bunch of starting team players to even force this 1-0 win. Yeah, they got the 3 points. At that point, maintaining a 1 point difference with Riga. But really a game that, if you're looking at it from the RFS perspective, is probably best forgotten.
Yeah, it's weird how bad they started. And Well, overall, I wouldn't say that the result is surprising. It's just the manner of it, because Jelgava usually do put up a good fight against any team, and they wouldn't lose like by a large margin. But yeah, the fact that they could have been 1-0 up and maybe could have gotten more out of this game is a bit weird, considering the quality of RFS and how they played in, as you said, in the big Riga derby just the round before. But well, they managed the goal by the captain Liepaja, who seems to be one of the guys who really is playing and trying his best. And I mean, in the context of this game overall, of course, the whole team is good and it's fine. But yeah, he seems to be the player who manages to sort of make these key moments and really push RFS when the rest of the team doesn't seem to do so.
I mean, yeah, the result might not be surprising, but also Jelgava of Perkons was a different Jelgava from what we're seeing now, and it's a little bit less dynamic of a team, so it feels a bit weaker. And of course, they lost a couple of players during the transfer window, a couple of key players, that being said. But yeah, they are looking good. Just maybe not as much of a wild card as they were in the beginning of the season, and that's why I said that it should have been a walkover. Obviously, if we're looking at Jelgava in the first 2 laps, then no, it's a team that could take points away from any of the leaders, and they almost did, and sometimes they did. But looking at stats, I mean, that's another story altogether. 26 shots for RFS versus 10 for Jelgava, although only 7 on target. And I can attest to that. It was just flying everywhere but in the goal. Jelgava managed 2, certainly a better percentage. But RFS kept 72% possession. And passing accuracy is also fairly standard for Jelgava, being quite low at 63. Essentially have people lobbing the ball out of their half and defending. But the next game, the one that you went to, that had some drama in it.
Oof, drama, I don't know about that one. It was just a bit weird, but overall I would call it pretty much a walkover. Riga against Liepaja, 3-1 for Riga. Drama, of course, I think you mean the fact that it was 1-1 at one point, but it was only the 60th minute, and okay, if it ended 1-1, I wouldn't be completely like baffled, but I think Riga still had it in the bag, because it was just, I don't know, it was just the biggest park the bus I've seen from Liepaja from Pertia. I was looking at the game, the first half, early on in the first half, and their striker, the person who's highest up the pitch, was on the D of the edge of the box, and it's just I don't even know what to say about that. Liepaja team with money, with quality, and quite a well-renowned coach in Virsliga, and falling this deep against Riga. It was just it was visibly frustrating for Riga to create something because of this park the bus method. Eventually, they did score the lucky goal. Pretty much, yeah. Jojic had a shot and bounced off Regja, and yeah, keeper went the other side. I mean, the stats: 34 shots against 3, 13 shots on target against 2, 73% ball possession for Riga, and they just look really good. I think they sort of fell asleep at one point. They weren't that creative in the attack. They were just sort of passing the ball around. That's when Liepaja managed to sort of tie the game from a very lucky set piece, which was, I guess, the plan of Pertia. I mean, it's impressive to have 3 shots and 2 of them on target, and 1 of them went in. Fair play. I don't even know how to really say his surname. Tin. I think Tin. I think the commentators call him Tins. Well, either way, I think he's a center back, and scored a very interesting goal. It was a bit of a weird one, and at that point it was a bit worrying. But then Riga switched it on, and the attacks they made afterwards, it was just wow! It was just pure joy, pure quality. It was so skillful, flawless. It was just a joy to watch, and they managed to score 2 goals in like 2 or 3 minutes. Very, very nice goal by Peña, and then also nice sort of kind of a counter attack by Riga. Aurelio pass to Soisolo. Just 2 very nice goals, and they could have scored more. But the main thing was the way they sort of passed around the box, switching side to side, to the middle, back to the side, and Gonda linking up with Jojic, with Peña. It was just something you would see in the top leagues. Well, just the style of the play. It was just very techy and just skillful and beautiful. And yeah, and I sat closer to Liepaja's goal the second half, and the whole action was just in front of us, and it was just nice to see. Nutmeg, I think it was Peña nutmeg the Greenbacks. It was just nice to see, and eventually they got to deserve the win, and it was just a very nice game, similar to the Riga derby. Just nice goals, nice sort of quality of football. Well, from Riga side, not so much from Liepaja, but I guess they still have some improvements from the many new Senegalese players. I guess there is some quality to them, and once they really get running, I think Liepaja, I would say they're worse than Auda and Valmiera, but still with their style of football, which is not the best to see. Maybe they can sort of fight for the 4th or maybe even 3rd spot.
Peña is really a pleasure to watch, and Gonda is such a wonderful rediscovery for Riga. Then, yeah, I completely agree. The way they play is a treat. Interestingly, so there is this a football analyst that some of the listeners who are also on Twitter may know of, Ben Griffiths. He's an American statistician, and he has just released an analysis of passing flow patterns of teams, essentially a new kind of a statistical metric. And when he analyzed Virsliga, or I think he maybe just looked at RFS and Riga and the English Premier League teams, it seems statistically that Riga has virtually identical passing flow to Brighton. So the way they move the ball around is essentially the same way that Brighton moves the ball around. So when you say that Gonda and Peña are combining and moving up and down field in a way that you would see in the top leagues, well, that's very much true.
Yeah, it is just nice to watch, and yeah, Brighton was really good this last season, and gets me more excited for the Conference League qualifiers, and to see whether Riga can keep it up and show it on the European stage. Because if they can, then I think there's going to be some attraction.
Well, we'll find out literally in a matter of hours as of recording this episode. We'll not talk about it on our kind of a Virsliga episodes. We decided that we're going to do an episode where we overview European games once the first qualification round is over. And boy, oh boy, do we have some things to share then, not just in terms of the results in the games, but also our experiences surrounding these things. But that's jumping ahead. At the moment, we're still in the beginning of July, and the final game of the round was Daugavpils hosting Supernova on 5th of July. Nothing particularly outstanding about this game other than it took Daugavpils 81 minutes to even open the score, which was a very frustrating game for them. But then Lizunov's converting a penalty and then following that up in the 87th minute with another successful strike. 2-0 for Daugavpils versus Supernova, and Supernova again didn't look bad. I'm actually beginning to enjoy watching them play. I think they, despite having 13 fewer shots overall, they only managed 1 less shot on target than Daugavpils, and possession was roughly equal as well, 52% for Daugavpils versus 48% for Supernova. Passing accuracy also very even, amount of passes also very even. So I don't really even know what to make of it other than that our, favorite Grinch of a coach who has been finally replaced. Maybe what a shocker that maybe was the reason for underperformance, but the results are not there yet, but the style of play is certainly more attractive than it was for, the entire season in the run-up to this.
Yeah, although Daugavpils should have won, it was interesting. Supernova did cause them problems. It took a while to score, and even the way they scored wasn't really that deserved, I think, but at the same time, kind of was. It's hard to say, but yeah, Supernova is starting to look better, and it's a bit of a shame that there's such a gap between them and the 9th place, so it will be hard to catch up, but they're definitely gonna cause more problems, and it seems that something really has been done, like some things put in place. I don't know what. Of course, the coach is one thing, but it can't be the only one, and it's good to see. It's just more competitive league is always nice to see.
But remember, Supernova started the season well.
They did all right.
I mean, they ended last season really well. If we're not looking at Riga RFS standards or Valmiera, but for them, and then they started this season, quite all right, yeah. But then this whole press conference thing started with him telling his players to go and get jobs in lumber yards and whatever. And I mean, just what kind of an atmosphere can you expect in the dressing room if that's the person in charge, who is also ostensibly an icon in Latvian football, telling you? I don't think it helped in any way, shape, or form. So obviously they're losing players, and the coach isn't a panacea to anything. It's not a silver bullet usually, but it can be a great force multiplier. And we'll see how the results get on, but at the very least, it's the team is doing something. That famous meme where there's a guy with a stick poking whatever, and it's like, do something. That's how I felt about Supernova for most of the season up to this point, and now they're, someone poked them, they're actually doing something.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they started the season well. I think they got one win, but yeah, I thought there were comments from Colin Koshor, but then they also beat Valmiera. It's a bit of a weird one, but of course the atmosphere definitely wasn't there. And yeah, it's just interesting to see what happens in the next games, because I think they get better game by game, look better, even better the next game, next round. So yeah, definitely a turnaround for Supernova.
And that brings us to the latest round 22, in which Valmiera hosted Tukums, Liepaja hosted RFS, Riga hosted Auda, Jelgava hosted Supernova, and Metta hosted Daugavpils. So the first game of the round on 7th of July was Valmiera versus Tukums, a game in which Valmiera won 6-0. Which is good for Valmiera, but I mean, after first half, I just felt sad for Tukums at that point.
Yeah, the result is really not telling of the game, because even though good for Valmiera, especially before Champions League debut, it wasn't really deserved, at least not 6-0, because yeah, in the beginning, Valmiera didn't really look that great. Tukums, held their own, got some attacks in, and they got they got a red card, which led also to a penalty, and I think it wasn't a deserved red card because the ball supposedly hit the defender's arm, but it seems that it really hit his body, not his arm, in which case shouldn't be a penalty, shouldn't be a foul, shouldn't be a red card. And after that, they sort of just broke apart. But even then, of course, Valmiera scored 6 goals and attacked, but even Tukums got some attacks in and some dangerous one as well. So I think they're unlucky to concede 6, unlucky to get a red card, and unlucky not to score. But overall, I guess Valmiera definitely were the better team and should have won and won. But yeah, as you said, just a bit sad, and yeah, I just feel a bit sorry for Tukums because it shouldn't have been that bad. Considering also the trip they had to take to Valmiera and then the trip back. Yeah, because they're a good team. They're just a good Virsliga team lately, and usually a joy to watch. But yeah, the other side is that very good for Valmiera. Gustavo Silva scoring 2 goals, and Doi scoring, Jaunzem scoring and Mena, of course, missing a penalty.
Yeah, and Leo Gaucho, the Brazilian striker who just left RFS, also scoring on his debut. But no, obviously, when I said sad, that's because that's why it's sad. That it is a very sympathetic team who are trying and are actually fighting on the field every single time. But they seem to have this thing every now and again, every season, where they just have a game where everything flies into their goal, like the 10-0 versus RFS. 6-0 here. Wasn't there like a 6-1 or something against RFS also earlier this season?
Yeah.
Or 6-2 or something ridiculous to that effect. And that's on one hand. But on the other hand, if we're again looking at stats, then this is fairly appropriate. 28 shots produced by Valmiera versus 7 by Tukums, 15 on target versus 4. 67% possession by Valmiera versus 33, and Tukums only managed 277 passes in the entire game. When we're looking at games by leading teams like Riga and RFS, this number goes into, north of 800s. So they just didn't really have much of the ball, and when they had it, they didn't really manage to do much with it. But having watched the game, I think the main issue that Tukums faced is that they were fine in defense despite the score. They were sort of okay moving the ball out of their half into the middle, but they were absolutely terrible in trying to move it into the final third. It was nothing. It was individual efforts, individual attempts. There was very little team play. The ball movement was predictable. They didn't try to play outside of, there's no out of the box thinking. And so they couldn't get the ball into the actual box. And then you don't have shots on goal. And that was a little bit, I think of all the things that Tukums showed in this game, that maybe is the most concerning one.
Yeah, but overall it says just one to forget for Tukums, because, again, a bit unlucky as well with the red card. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much what the game was about. 6-0. Unfortunate for Tukums, but good for Valmiera, good for their morale, so especially before the Champions League debut.
It's a good way for them to whet their appetite.
Exactly. Not such a good way to whet their appetite for the Euro Cup. The Conference League qualifications was for RFS, where they went to Liepaja to play Liepaja, of course, and yeah, it ended 1-1. I think RFS again can be disappointed with the game, losing points. Of course, Liepaja shouldn't be a bad team, but lately, seeing how they play, I definitely thought RFS are going to have it, well, not easy, but I thought it would be similar to Riga game, that they maybe will concede, maybe struggle a bit, but should comfortably win. But in the end, it was interesting. The first half, I think, was good for RFS. They scored the penalty, Ilic converted it, but the second half, towards the end, they sort of gave up their dominance, and there was a point when Liepaja was really pushing them into their own half, almost as Riga did with Liepaja, which was weird to see. Really not a familiar look for RFS, and it sort of felt like they were not in their skin towards the end of the second half, and yeah, managed to give away a penalty, which they conceded. Jelgava almost saved it, to be fair, but yeah, Auda converted it and 1-1.
It just was another disappointing game coming off the back of the game against Jelgava in the previous round. Insofar as I'm concerned, RFS played for like 4 minutes in this match, and that was after Dodo converted the penalty, which was in 91st minute. As you said, they weren't in their skin, but more importantly, they were kind of out of position most of the time. They so much, poor, inaccurate passing, kind of lots of misunderstandings between players. There was some rotation, again, in the squad, but nothing tremendously, unfamiliar. And statistically, it's a game between two identical teams, 10 shots overall each, 4 shots on target each. Liepaja dominating possession. Okay, not dominating. A bit more in possession than RFS, 53% versus 47%. Basically identical passing accuracy, essentially identical amount of passes, but again, a bit more for Liepaja. And if you look at this, you're like, what's with these numbers? This is not how these two teams line up on paper or in the previous games this season, where RFS essentially, didn't really make short work of Liepaja, but were in control. They were in the driver's seat. And in this game, nobody was. There are 2 penalties, one on each side, and just a frustrating game to watch, I think, if you're a supporter of either team. I don't know, maybe if you're a supporter of Liepaja, there's some consolation in that you managed to pull out a point out of the game, basically at the very end. But it was not a good game. Victor Smoras in the press conference, I think, said that this was their worst game that he can remember, although I can remember him saying that about a different game earlier this season. So, either that superseded that first game, which I think was against Supernova.
Could have been, because they I think only 1-1 against Supernova that game. But yeah.
Yeah, when Raquel scored,
and as unusual and surprising it is how bad RFS were, it was even more surprising for me how Liepaja played, because seeing how they played and did against Riga, to just switch it up in one game and suddenly actually attack and keep the ball more than the other good Riga team, it's just weird how they did it like that. I thought it's impossible. I thought Perez only knows park the bus now. But no, and even when Tiderbergs was injured early on in the game, in like the 13th minute, they had to make a substitution. Greenberg's going to left back, which is really not his position. Mettis coming in, and they actually did good, both of them. It just seemed weird, not how Liepaja has been this season, and it genuinely was surprising that they actually managed to keep the ball and attack, and 4 shots on target, same amount as RFS. It's weird. I'm back to really not understanding Liepaja as it was at the start of the season. It seemed that they had developed something of an identity, but now again it's just what is this? I guess it's the whole rebuild with the Senegalese players, who genuinely don't look actually that bad, like Dio, who got the penalty, and all the defenders. It's just interesting. It's weird, but they seem to be doing fine. Also, their goalkeeper, Sanikidze, I think, has cemented his place at this point as the first choice goalkeeper. Has been very solid lately, even against Riga, where he did concede 3, but also managed to save a lot. So it's interesting. Liepaja actually starting to do something, but I guess main takeaway is more on the disappointing side for RFS, because again they're playing in the European competition, so we really want them to do better. But I think this is what they do good. They sort of recognize their short bad path, and I think that should actually do them good in Macedonia, North Macedonia, and I hope they think they should be fine there. But still, weird that they only managed to draw against Liepaja.
We need the teams to do well. We're 0.375 points in UEFA rankings below the spot in Europa League, so this is essential to get there, or at least as close to there as possible. But no, I agree. I mean, Sanikidze is excellent. There's no arguing with that. In terms of outfield players, I mean, Pertia did in that conference play all, as if we're asking a stupid question, that why are you rotating more than half of your squad, by saying that, they're putting players on field and seeing how it goes. It's just this extreme version of, I don't know, like this football Darwinism, where he's just throwing the team in different configurations game after game, and then seeing what works, I guess. I don't know. He's trying to accelerate player selection and development maybe somehow, but I agree that to me that makes Liepaja a little bit frustrating to watch, and I'm not even a Liepaja fan. I don't know what those people feel like.
Up to this point, somehow seems to be kind of working. Weird, but it's Pertti, and by now we should realize he's a coach who sort of knows what he's doing, even though other people might not.
I know, it just seems kind of borderline desperate if you're looking from the outside.
I do agree.
I guess we'll see. The November will judge everyone and where people are and what their efforts resulted in. The next game was Riga versus Auda, which should have ended 2-0 by all laws of history and thermodynamics, because that's how every single game between these two teams ended. But that wasn't the case. Riga won still, but only 1-0, and only at the very, very end.
Again, of course, Riga wins against Auda, and everyone can say whatever, but they are trying, and in this game they actually came very close to getting a point. Even after they conceded, they had a couple of attacks, and overall the stats are in favor of Riga. So yeah, it seems that, as you said, it sort of is a law by this point that Riga will win, but they only scored one, and also kind of lucky from a set piece late on in the game, 88th minute. It really could have ended badly for them, so I think props to Auda for this one. And I listened to the press conference just now, and I like how Valakari speaks of his team and points out that they are sort of getting better and almost there, because they actually did attack against Riga. They didn't really do it in the previous games or last season. In this game, they really put up a good fight and didn't stand out as like convincingly a worse team. And yeah, I'm just happy for Auda because they're the last team yet to mention in terms of European competitions this year. And of course, it's unlikely that they really do something, considering they have a tough opponent and they start from the second round. But still, it seems that they can actually make themselves look good, and this game really proved it. And I also like how they can sort of rotate a lot and put players in different positions, and they seem to be doing well wherever they play. And it's just a nice little team, fun team to watch. And yeah, even though they lost, I really feel like positive about this game. In Riga, they just did what they do. They attacked more, managed the goal. Again, sort of reminds of that one season that I compared this season to earlier on. And this game is similar to that. Scraped out a victory. Didn't also like look bad. And yeah, I guess we have to recognize Auda being a good team. But other than that, it's just a result that could have been predicted before the game.
Yeah, Riga peppered around the goal as they do. Many attempts on goal, few shots on target. Still got the 3 points. And because RFS drew against Liepaja, then Riga managed to pull away a little bit. It's still a 3 points difference, so still very perilous, but rebuilding their buffer zone a little bit. Something we should, I think, mention, even though we're not going to talk about transfers in these regular episodes, and we're going to do one when the transfer window closes, which is not too far in the future now, but Fabrice Ondoa left Auda in since we last recorded. Surely a significant loss for the team, not just in terms of the goalkeeper lineup, where they're not really lacking, with Robert Sozos now being in the goal, but a very charismatic leader in the dressing room, and a major part of Auda's last year's success, both in the league and specifically and primarily in winning the Latvian Cup.
That is a bit sad because, yeah, great character for Virsliga, and just now got back into the national team as well. A bit frustrating that he left before the European competitions, but yeah, all the best to him. And yeah, also, while we're on this, of course, they lost him. Ozil's coming in, of course, still a good goalkeeper, but yeah, I just realized that against Riga they also played without Ulim Bashevs and Isayevs. They both were on the bench but didn't come on, and that's also a bit, well, not a bit. It's massive respect to Auda to play without. I think arguably they're both leaders on the pitch, and still almost getting points off of Riga. Very impressive, and it's just I think and Oguni also was left on the bench, so I think it's a good sign of things to come. I hope so, at least. Just even though they lost, I think they really did come out somehow on top in this game.
Yeah, next game was Jelgava hosting Supernova, and another fun game from Supernova. So the match ended 2-2, and this one was a roller coaster. I really enjoyed watching it. So Jelgava opened score on 11th minute with Kevin Stesniaks. Then right before the halftime whistle, Ravis Skrebels, a new addition to Supernova, equalized. Teams went into the dressing rooms all even. Then second half seemed like it's not really going to bring any new goals to the game until in 84th minute, Yevgeny Sminins, undoubtedly a Supernova star this season, scores and Supernova are up 2-1, but only for 2 minutes because on an attack on the other side of the field, Agwu then equalizes again 2-2, and then it's just a dogfight after that. Ball is traveling from penalty box to penalty box, and it's just so much fun to see. Statistically, teams, again, not much to set them apart. 14 shots produced by Jelgava versus 16 by Supernova, 3 on target versus 7. Supernova actually bringing a lot more danger to Jelgava's goal than the other way around. Jelgava maintaining a bit more possession, 52%, and both teams, uncharacteristically for these teams, actually record a fairly high passing accuracy. I mean, overall, this was just a super fun, super exciting game to watch, especially in the second half, especially when it seemed like, it's just going to end 1-1, and then Minin scoring, which is a lovely goal as well, a left-footed crack from outside the penalty area, kind of hit the crossbar on its way in, wonderful, and then also Agwu getting one back, and it's just the crowd going wild.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun game. But also an interesting one because, well, statistically, Supernova maybe actually look a bit better, but I think Jelgava, well, the stats really don't tell much about Jelgava. I remember Osogu had a very nice moment in the box where he, I think, sort of beat like 3 players with like quick footwork, and then had a shot in the far corner and it hit the post, which of course wouldn't record as a shot on target, even though it was very close. And both teams just look good, and that's what we said, that Supernova looking better game by game. Actually creating chances. What I have noticed, I think, especially after Kolinkov's departing, Lucinch, I think, looks really good lately. Don't know why, but he seems to be sort of finding his feet again, which is nice to see. Minions, of course, I think pretty much a leader of Supernova at this point. Very nice goal, though I think it was offside. Barely. It's hard to tell whether it looked that he was offside. But either way, nothing to take away from him. What a goal, what a shot. He really is a master of these. Even though Jelgava, I think, sort of deserved the goals, they came very lucky because both times Supernova goalkeeper Saloka sort of caught the ball but still let it in. It rolled in much slower than the initial shot was, so could have been a win for Supernova right there. But I think it's to come, and still a nice, fun game. As you said, very nice to watch. Yeah, sometimes even these games like your Mettas, Jelgavas, Supernovas, Tukums are more fun to watch than, I don't know, RFS Liepaja game, which is also very nice. Sort of this beauty of Virsliga. Interesting to see whether Supernova get a win against, well, against who could they win, of course, more likely against the bottom teams, but if they play like this, I wouldn't be surprised if they manage a draw against maybe an Auda or Liepaja. Yeah, I hope they just get closer and there's more race for the last place as well towards the end of the season. Though I wouldn't want Jelgava to, well, it doesn't matter. Nice game. The last game to discuss, the last game of round 22 was unfortunately, we end on a boring one. Metta against Daugavpils, a 0-0. If we said that Jelgava Supernova 2-2 draw was actually surprisingly high quality, then this was for Metta and Daugavpils game a surprisingly low quality game. Usually it's a good battle, but this time both teams just not that exciting. A lot of mistakes, not converting their chances. Puzarevski is still very poor in front of the goal. I think Richards is getting visibly more and more pissed about that. Then also Metta gifted. I think Cash is gifted Daugavpils pretty much an easy 1-on-1, but Afanasyev sort of got confused about this gift and just fell over. And yeah, it was really these two episodes telling of the game. How just not good both teams looked, and of course Metta overall did look better, but yeah, it's disappointing that they couldn't score. A couple of players like Papnic and Ios I think looked good. I think Daugavpils lately has been quite reliant on Tsutsurs on the right side. I think he's been good, but other than that, I mean, it's a 0-0. What much is there to say? I guess yeah, Puzarevski really has to just work on his end product. Oh, actually, one interesting thing about this game I want to mention is the substitution that Metta made. They brought on Takaya Sasaki, a Japanese player newly signed for Metta. Why I want to mention it is because he came out from Marupe, my team from the third tier. Started the season really good. I think it was quite obvious that he is sort of much higher quality than Marupe is playing at. And I think he actually proved it when he came on. I think he was pretty much the only Metta's player actually like trying and making some chances, and he did really look good. And yeah, very excited for that to see how he does in Metta in Virsliga and where he can take himself. So yeah, that's I'd say for me it was the most exciting part of the game.
Oh, that's super fun. That a player from third division gets pulled by Metta. We sometimes see a little bit of movement between second division and the Virsliga, so first level and second level, but not really all that much further down. So that's super fun to see, and that it's from your team. That's makes it even more exciting. So I agree. That's fantastic news for him, and let's see how it goes. Yeah, no, it's some points are definitely brewing. If not a win, then maybe a draw in the near future. I think they're due to play Daugavpils in their next round or soon thereafter, so that's probably the prime candidate. But yeah, that was the round. We have 3 draws and 2 wins. Not really all that many goals scored. In fact, Valmiera scored almost as many goals in their one game as all the other games combined. And let's have a look at the table we haven't talked about for a while. Not really all that many changes. Riga FC are still top of table with 55 points, and they managed to rebuild their lead a little bit over RFS, who are just behind them with 52 points. So 3 points difference, 3 consecutive draws in games between these two teams. So if it keeps going like this, then the last Riga derby is going to be a decisive game, because if RFS wins that one and they go equal on points with Riga, then they'll also have better head-to-head balance and will be crowned champions. But obviously that's getting far ahead of ourselves. RFS still remain the only undefeated team, and on top of that, these two teams are pretty spectacular in terms of their goals scored to conceded difference. Riga has 42, RFS has 44, so that's 53 goals scored for each of the teams, except Riga conceded 11 versus RFS conceded 9. Just for comparison's sake, the next best goal scored to conceded difference is 8. So we have 44, 42, and 8. Isn't that just completely crazy?
I don't know if it's ever happened in Virsliga, this like such a gap between like second and third, first, second, whatever, impressive. And yeah, but then there's the other side, the worst one, which is an even more impressive one than the best too. But yeah, it is very crazy and just shows the quality of both Riga teams, RFS and Riga FC, and their quality. I've seen some comments on like on Twitter or whatever about like this year's quality of Virsliga, whether Riga and RFS have gotten that much better or the other teams have worsened. I think the overall consensus is that Riga and RFS quality has sort of stayed the same, but the other teams have gotten worse, which I would agree with. But still,
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. I think Riga and RFS did get better, and other teams did get a bit worse. Not all of them, but I mean, Valmiera is a prime candidate. They have dropped significantly in their quality from their last season, which was their golden season. And I mean, Liepaja is really hard to judge, but I mean, Auda did very obviously get worse, but Metta, I think, got better. So, I don't know, but that's a different conversation. So Valmiera is number 3 now, so they climbed with 34 points and a fairly decent form. Of their last 5 games, they won 2, drew 2, and lost 1. No real pattern. So it was a victory, a loss, draw, victory. So we'll see where that takes them. They are followed by Liepaja and Auda, 31 points apiece. Similar form, kind of no consistent patterns. Actually, lots of draws lately in Virsliga for all teams, including the 2 Rigas at the top. Then you have Metta hot on their heels in number 6 with 24 points, improving their form somewhat, 3 losses, 2 draws, followed by Tukums, 1 point behind. Again, form all over the place, win, loss, win, draw, loss. They're just flailing in the wind at the moment, but still very much within, in a good position to move up in the table. And then Daugavpils have managed to scrape together enough to start pressing Tukums. They are in 8th place with 22 points and kind of a maybe outside of the Riga teams and Supernova the most consistent form. Win, draw. So no losses in the last 5 games. Then we have Jelgava, 2 points behind, kind of struggling to collect points, but and not really winning anything all that much. And of course, way behind, 12 points behind, is Supernova, who have probably, the reverse opposite of, I guess, the RFS form, in that they just can't seem to win. And in fact, this draw in the final round, in the latest round, was actually, when did they last not even lose any points? I mean, it's just been losses for days, and they managed to get a point against Jelgava. But I don't know, it's been a while. It feels like forever, right? They only have 2 wins, 2 draws, and then 18 losses, minus 48 in scores to conceded difference, which, you don't need to be great at math to understand that basically means 3 goals conceded per game on average. That's not good, whichever way you look at it. But yeah, there we have 2 teams in the title race. I think it's very conclusive that they're not really going to be pressed by anyone else. Then we have Valmiera, Liepaja, and Auda sort of fighting it out for position number 3. All have enough points to actually challenge for that, and not to forget that Liepaja and Metta still have a game in hand, which will be played soon. And then there's some competition for 6, 7, 8. So we're beginning to see these groups forming that can compete amongst themselves, but don't really have that much potential to challenge the groups above them at this time.
Yeah, I think it's just this lovely these clusters: Riga RFS, then Valmiera, Liepaja, Auda. What I love about these teams is that they have all of them have the same form. Well, not the same form in terms of consistency, but last 5 games, all 3 teams have 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss. It's just so telling of them and the sort of similar quality. Then the cluster of 4 teams for the 6th place: Metta, Tukums, Daugavpils, Jelgava, and then the lone wolf at the bottom, Supernova. And also very happy about Daugavpils' form. It's really nice to see they're picking up. And honestly, when I look at these clusters, I'm genuinely gonna be more excited about a game like Tukums Daugavpils again, rather than Auda Liepaja, which is really nice that the bottom teams can sort of make these fun matches. And it's nice to see. It's good to see. And in terms of top goal scorers, it's still the same: Ilic, Regja, and then Dodo fighting for the first place. And then a bunch of players on 8, 7, 6. Stepanovic, who's left. Minions, who we mentioned from Supernova, on 8 goals. That's very impressive. I'm just sure he's gonna go to a better team next season, and I wish well for him.
That's basically half of all Supernova goals. They only scored 19 thus far, and if so that's credit to him. No, the form charts, those green, orange, and the red ones, it looks like Christmas is upon us. So, and that's always good. Right? It's lots of color. It's not just all green or all red. Even Supernova managed to get a little bit of yellow into the mix. All right, so that's the situation in Virsliga as of rounds 21 and 22.
Yeah. Quick goal of the round nomination. What are your thoughts? 3 stood out to me: Peña, Silva, and Minions. Can't really decide. Peña's goal was very nice. He also got the goal of the round last time. Very similar to Emerson's goal against Riga, though.
For me, also Peña or Minions.
I guess we can give it to Minions. Why not? It was a nice individual run and just such a nice finish. And I guess it holds more weight as well. It's Supernova. I gotta give something to them, and especially to Minions. And also Peña's goal, as nice as it was basically the same as Emerson's goal against Riga, but I think even Emerson's was better, so I think it's only fair to give it to Minions, if you agree.
I agree. There's a little bit more, maybe courage in it, because the way it wasn't that he Minions was 1-on-1 or something like that. It was a lovely counterattack, and he had a man to his left whom he could have attempted to pass the ball to, and instead he took the risk and fired off this shot not from the most comfortable or risk-free of positions, and it went in. And it was lovely and strong and accurate, and clipped the crossbar on its way in, which is always a nice visual effect to go with that. So I think just for the courage and nerve and just how much it meant, even if it was only for a few minutes, to Supernova, let's go with Minions. So congratulations, it's goal of the round. We now have a small gap in the Virsliga schedule to account for European games. So as of this recording, Valmiera already played their first Champions League game, and both Riga and RFS are playing their first qualification round for Conference League today. And then next week there's return games, and then we're going to record an episode at the end of next week to review all that, see how it went, share our experiences of covering and experiencing these wonderful events that are European games. And we'll speak to you then. In the meanwhile, just a reminder, we have an Instagram account where we're kind of putting, not really behind the scenes pictures, but just pictures and videos from the stuff. And if you want to kind of get a glimpse, follow us there. And of course, we're still on Twitter.